Hello, my name is Omar Rabasad. It is 7:28 p.m., May 20th, 2020. And I was just red alerted. There is an experiment going on in 25 Bamberg Circle. And as I talked about before several times, it's about alerts. One of the experiment is being carried out by the Toronto police. And I imagine this experiment is being carried out throughout the world by other police forces as well, because my account is being monitored internationally under some terrorism act, I think. I heard. This is what I'm being harassed about. So I was just red alerted and a few minutes ago, and I was taking my blood pressure, and there's my blood pressure, 135 over 89. And the person who's logged on, because he came outside the window and he harassed me just now because the contract just changed hands. He opened an account and he submitted a report about me because he talked about it. Then he closed the account because I tweeted about what he was doing, and he closed the account and he sold it to somebody, the Chinese. I heard. So he came outside about what he did, not directly, of course, and he did that because I exposed what he was doing. So the blood pressure starting at 718, 128 over 85, 120 over 85, and 135 over 89. So 85, 83, 81. So in the experiment that I am part of, I am an illegal experimentee, an unwitting experimentee. So the experiment I did not consent to, but I was put into it by a person who flagged me, basically. And this was probably done officially under after 9/11 under Terrorism Act. But the traffickers had me in a program even before that. And I suspect that the MK Ultra program was being used to contain and to torture the victims that was chosen to be trafficked and experimented with. So I'll keep taking, let's do the temperature, and that's why I'm doing sleeveless, and also because it's getting warmer. So 36.9. The normal temperature is 36.3, 36.4. And there you go. That's how high the power was turned up. That was alert. This is a red alert. 37.8. And it was hotter than that because it happened about 10 minutes ago, 37.8. And I'm still being pulsed. 37.7. So it's on its way down. So let me show you the pulse on the chest. So the temperature on the left side, as usual, cooler, 36.8. So there is almost a 1 degree difference between 37.5. 36.8, 37.8, 1 degree difference between the left side and the right side, which is consistent finding all the time. And this goes on all day and all night. I get up at night, sometimes the difference is 1.5 degrees between the left side and the right side. My temperature, sometimes I've seen the temperature go up to 39. It gets so hot while I'm sleeping, and I get up with my heart racing. So sleep apnea doesn't increase your body temperature. It doesn't trigger your microwave alarm. It doesn't register high RF readings and high EF readings. This is not what sleep apnea does, obviously. So this is not sleep apnea. This is not something that's coming from my body internally. This is being acted, my body is being acted upon, and it's being caused to happen. I am being harassed and targeted. My heart gets hit, my chest gets hit directly. 36.6, no temperature. My forehead, 36.5, no temperature, no fever. 37.4. So again, 37.3, left side, 37.1. So now the left side is going up. 37. 36.9. Up and down, up and down, up and down, like my blood pressure. Up and down, up and down, up and down. 36.7. So no fever. 37.3. 37.1. 37.1. So I'm going to take my blood pressure one more time. So a male outside the window is saying that my sister-in-law absoluted it, that I used to be a real prostitute, which of course I was never, ever. And so she re-prostituted me. I used to be a prostitute, and she re-prostituted me in this new communistic approach to community control. It's communism. So I just got another scan, and here we go. 144/91. So the person in the loading dock is doing this. The worker is doing this. Absolutely, the worker is doing this because he's knocking in the synchronization of it. So this is going into arrhythmia. If he scans me again, I will go into arrhythmia. Means business, no exposure, right? So let's see what the temperature is. My body heats up. So keep in mind, this is 37.0. This is a program being run by the Toronto Police. What I'm documenting here is torture and attempted murder by the Toronto Police. Because this would not be going on if my name was not on a list and monitoring was not outsourced and I was not being experimented on. Okay, so let me take the blood pressure one more time. Now I know it's the worker because he just came outside the window and I live streamed it, and he openly talked about what he was doing. And that's only a little snippet of the conversation. There are several other conversations that I don't record or I don't live stream. I'm sitting right here in front of this computer and I can hear every single word he says because he talks really, really loudly. He shouts, knowing that I can hear him. And the intention is to have me listen to what he's saying, because the intention is to terrorize me and to threaten me into shutting up. 122/98. And I'm sitting and my heart rate is 99. So my heart rate started off at 83, 86, 83, 81, 86, and now it's 99. Attempted murder. This is how you give somebody a heart attack. So under COVID-19, for all the people who died of heart attacks and strokes, because what's going on right now is it's constricting my lungs, constricting the arteries leading to my heart, and it's restricting the blood flow. And it also is, as the higher the power, it also clots the blood. And the blood gets thicker, so it gets clots, and then you can get strokes. And of course, you can get aneurysms because these high pressure will balloon out your blood vessels, and you can get aneurysms and weaknesses in the blood and spots in the blood vessel. And my throat and mouth is dried out. Like I could feel the heat inside of my body. Live, this is live attempted murder at 25 Bamberg Circle in Toronto. And this is what legal experimentation is all about. The experimenters, the contractors running the experiment are covered, completely and utterly covered by people in the government, people in the military, people in the police force, people in RCMP, people in every agencies. The courts are going to work with them. The doctors are going to work with them. The therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists are all gonna work with them to keep the person in the experiment and to keep the person psychologically boxed in. So in this case, it's an enslavement program, and experiments are being run. So a target is used for all kinds of purposes, all kinds of experiments. So, and one of the uses of the target is to sexual enslavement. It's just one of the many, many, many ways that a target is taken advantage of. So everybody is in on it. So everybody in my life who I come in contact with is part of this program. Every single person, doctors, lawyers, court personnel, they've all been infiltrated because it's essential. It's an essential part of the experiment. You have to keep the person within this box. And the way to do that is to infiltrate every single person who comes in contact with the person. And this file is given to the person or part of the file. And to isolate, you have to isolate. Isolation is completely essential. Completely essential. No emotional bonds. All emotional bonds are broken. And you have to be in this psychological box where you're triggered all the time. So you're kept in the psychological box by triggers, by the MK Ultra programming that layers the triggers. And each trigger can have other triggers associated with it. For instance, water can be a trigger. If you're drowning and you get traumatized and you almost drown, you have a Coke, you have a drink, you have a cup of tea, that could be a trigger because you were traumatized while you were swimming. The cup can be a trigger. A tea bag could be a trigger because it's all associated with the main trigger, which is the event while you were swimming. This is how it's built in. So these layers of triggers constantly bring you back to a traumatized state of mind. And when you're traumatized constantly, and when you're in that state of mind constantly, you're vulnerable, and people will take advantage of you. And that's the whole idea. A target is to be taken advantage of. And then they'll turn around and call you stupid because when you're completely traumatized, you're shut down, basically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. You shut down. Your normal reaction is to self-protection. So you draw in your energy, you draw in your emotional energy, and you shut down in order to recuperate. And then the pimp or the experimenter, who's really a pimp, will say, "Oh, you're stupid because you're not reacting in a fast way or in the quote unquote right way that you're supposed to act or react." So if you go and Google MK Ultra, it's a built-in program, psychological program that could be used by anybody, just about anybody. It doesn't have to be government. And the government is not the only people who are the dark government, deep state government, whoever, the infiltrated people in the government. These are not the only people who run experiments. Other agencies could be running experiments as well. Pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, unethical companies, they could do this. So I have someone on the chat that says, I've heard it called controlled environment. It's a pattern. They did it this way on every single person they targeted. Well, yeah, it's a template. I agree. Thanks for that comment. It is a template, a set template that's a step by step, and they go through it step by step. And maybe there's a few modifications given the person's circumstances, life circumstances, but definitely the steps are the same. If you have good relationships with your family, then the whole idea is to break it and to traumatize you and have you have to put your family members violate you, or you react in a way to push them away and to break the bond. That's one step of the whole thing. So 128/86, And the pulse is the same in this case. I'm not sure why. I am guessing that somewhere along the line I did have a heart attack and it was never diagnosed. So because this is very sensitive. These numbers are showing a high sensitivity to being pulsed this way. Of course, my face is swollen because last night the power was turned up. I was red alerted almost all night last night. The power was turned up all night last night. Like all this here, swollen. This is swelling. So and definitely we have an irregular heartbeat. It never fails. It never fails. So another scan for the chest. There. And another bang, a synchronized bang from the loading dock. So again, that's the worker who's logged in and who's doing it, because the worker does not want exposure. This is evidence against him personally. This is evidence against the people in the building who's taken part in this. So I'm just going to do a little experiment. Excuse me here for a second. I'm gonna reach for something. So this is the cover of a cookie pan. So I'm just gonna place it over my chest. So here is the so that's the reading. It's over limit. I do not have any magnets on me. Let me try the other one. Well, it's hard. The alarm is not set. I have to change the alarm setting for that. But this one here, you get a better picture. Here. Trying to find which angle it's coming from the top, underneath, the side, this side. Is the light getting lighter? So on the metal, it doesn't alarm. Take the metal away. Take the metal over it. Put the metal, take the metal away, sorry. Put the metal over it. So I'm going to just hold that there for a second. And then I'm going to take my blood pressure reading. So somebody is yelling outside that the government is going to kill it. The cops got an okay to kill it because my name is on a list. We're supposed to be disposed of. I'm supposed to be disposed of. Sometimes realizing this has kept me sane this long. Well, once you realize that it is a program, and the things that you're experiencing is not coming from inside of you, yeah, it helps. I mean, if like I had a real problem with my telling the cops that I was being gang stalked, and the cops were telling me I was paranoid. So I knew that I was being followed. And as a woman, also, you have this sixth sense. You know that you're being followed. And the cops are saying you're paranoid. So the cops were trying to make me think that something was wrong with me and this was not happening because they were trying to cover up this program because they're running it, basically. So yeah, realizing certain things definitely help keep you sane. So I shielded, and it's 136/88. See, it bounces off the metal. I think. Maybe not, I'm wrong. Maybe the pattern of the signals changed. Oh, it's possible that my hand, the movement of my hand is what's triggering. Okay, so let's take the pressure one more time while I shield. So I do get flashes in my eyes when my eyes are pulsed. And also when I shield like this, and sometimes I have to put 5 layers of metal. I have the cookie sheets, which are a lot heavier than this. Sometimes I have to put 3 on there. So, yeah, the blood pressure went down, 133/87. So that's another layer of proof that I am being hit with microwaves, or else the metal would not help. it would seem that the metal decreases the intensity of the light. See? The intensity of the light goes down there. And it triggers the alarm only sometimes. Whereas here, it's triggering the alarm all the time. So the temperature (37). 37.8. See how you get a fever? This is how microwaves give you a fever. According to this thermometer, on the right side of my body, I have a fever, which I do not. 36.8 and 37.8 on the other side. 1 degree difference from the left side to the right side. I heard somebody outside the window today talked about the difference in the temperature, because I'm doing these videos, they look at it and they make comments about it. It's because there's a chip on the right side of my body. And they know exactly what a chip is, because the chip was put in to enhance, to be gerbled. And gerbling is to be stimulated remotely by these technologies. And this is exactly what 5G will facilitate. This is millimeter wave technology to log on to you, but there's haptic technology as well. So what I am talking about here is going to be happening to every single person in the very, very near future. You're going to have a double. You're going to have a double always logged on to you. And the reason why we are being separated from our families and we are distancing, social distancing, is because we're going to be, the bonds between human beings are going to be broken. And we're going to have a remote partner, a remote guide that's logged into us remotely, because most likely there's going to be a chip in our brain. And we're going to be, and there is actually a series on Prime Video and Amazon, on the Amazon network, if you can call it network. It's called Upload, and if you look at that, you'll have a good idea of where the future is going with this technology. So this is we're being prepared. The social distancing. They let grandma have a birthday alone. We can't visit grandma in the nursing home because we're going to kill her when they're dying, when we're not there. It doesn't make sense to me. But the idea is to break the emotional bonds, and even with the parents. In the schools now, the kids have their little circle when they're playing, and their little X's where they should stand in the playing ground. So this is how regimented the future of these children are going to be. I'm not going to be here, so I'm not going to worry about it for myself. But definitely the kids who are coming into the system, it's knowing what we know in our generation. You know, I just turned 60, as I said before. Excuse me. See, and my face is swollen. All this here is swollen. You can see it when I turn on the side. And it actually hurts. It burns and it hurts. So the future, as I was saying, is going to be very regimented for the children, and they're not going to know what real happiness is, and they're not going to know what real emotional bonds are. Again, in the grand scheme of things, this phase of our evolution is going to pass. It's not going to stick around. Simply because it cannot sustain itself, it will not last. It's a phase. It's a phase where the machine is going to seem to take control for a while, and then it's all going to disintegrate. And that's the nature of evolution. The cycle goes up and the cycle comes down. But meanwhile, a lot of people are going to die, and a lot of people are going to get tortured, and there's going to be and my nose and face is being pulsed. Okay. So let me take my blood pressure again. So I think I should just keep this here because I'm getting pulsed all the time, or else I will go into arrhythmia and I'm going to have to go on shield. And I just had a huge heart palpitation because I just got another scan. And the RF reading is, it is higher. 32. When the RF reading is high, I do get palpitations because something about the signals that's used when the RF reading is high penetrates the body. 130/83, so it went down. Penetrates the body, right through the body. So shield, so people out there, shield, especially with 5G and the antennas are very close by. I've seen the numbers, the RF numbers. I've uploaded the numbers from the modem. It goes up really high, over 1,000 RF. And that's milliwatts per square meter. And that's pretty high. That's 1 watt per square meter. So that's pretty high. So shielding helps with the heart palpitations, help with the burning sensations in your stomach. Because when you do get burning sensations in your stomach every 5 minutes, that's not heartburn, and that's not acid reflux. It may feel like acid reflux, but it's not, because when the chest is pulsed with these microwaves, it contracts your esophagus, and the acid comes up. Contracts the stomach lining, the stomach muscles as well. Contracts your intestine, contracts your bladder, contracts your ovaries for women, contracts your penis for men too, and does all sorts of funny things to your prostate gland because you're supposed to keep those cool, I read. When they get heated up with microwaves, then you're going to get infertile. You're not going to be able to have kids. Okay. So definitely the RF readings are a lot higher since 5G along, and the heat in my bedroom. I did a little experiment today. And I put this detector next to the wall in the solarium and in the living room, right above the electrical outlet, the plugs. I put it right beside the plug, above the plug itself, the opening. And the reading only came up to about 3-4 EF. Yet the wall that I have my bed up against in the bedroom is reading the same as the live wire, 2,000 plus. And of course, it's hot. So that's very interesting. So my bedroom is staged. Also, the electrical reading when I do this above my bed is a lot higher. The RF reading is higher. So my bed is being staged. There is a millimeter wave camera on my bed. Millimeter wave, of course, can go through walls and see through your body, sees you naked on your bed. This technology is being done, being used to violate kids, especially children, especially. So I'm taking my blood pressure reading one more time. And here we go, 122/88. And I'm still shielding. Makes a difference. So I just demonstrated to you that my heart palpitation and arrhythmia is not caused by something internally from my body, but my body is being externally acted upon. Okay. So I wanted to read you an article from the Wired magazine, wired.com website. There's a paywall. I had to pay $5 to get to this, and it's not expensive. For 6 months, it's $5. After that, it's $30 for 12 months. So I put $5 in to get 6 months subscription. And because I Googled this and I wanted to read this. It says, my father says he's a targeted individual. Maybe we all are. My dad is one of thousands who believe the government, and I'm going to say the dark government, is subjecting them to mind control. As a daughter and a journalist, I felt a duty to investigate his claims. Have these individuals been America's prophets all along? She's asking the question. I was 11 when my father destroyed the condominium where he was living, searching for hidden transistors or other devices that might be beaming voices into his skull. He took a hammer to the wall, shoved it into the holes, and pulled off chunks of plaster. He shut off the power generator and cut the electrical wires in the walls. He put his ear to the floor. He ripped up the carpet. He called 911. A Mexican immigrant who perfected his English by reading books, he sneaked into the San Diego shipyard where he helped build oil tankers. Marco Guerrero had always been an uncanny mechanic. He could see through to the machinery of everything. As if he had X-ray vision, he could adjust brakes, fix broken pipes, tap telephone lines. After mass layoffs at the shipyard, he stayed at home, documenting my first words on his camcorder and taking me to coastal pools to catch cobitos. But then he fell into a depression. My parents separated. He started smoking crack cocaine. After tearing his place apart, he vanished on years-long cross-border quest to escape alleged CIA persecutors. Okay, so she goes on into a lot of detail. In college, I minored in neuroscience while majoring in journalism, searching for my absent father in fMRI brain scans and a diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. Though he had returned from his transcontinental odyssey a couple of years earlier and moved in with his mother in San Diego, I rarely saw him when I visited. We exchanged a few words. But on my 20th birthday, I made a trip to my paternal grandmother's house, and my father, sober now for several years, dragged a chair next to me and started talking. It was the first lengthy conversation we had since I was a child. The story he told sounded unlikely that he was one of thousands of targeted individuals who had been covertly spied upon and manipulated by the CIA in the early 2000s. So-called TIs had begun banding together around the country and across the internet, but he didn't sound agitated or disturbed the way I had imagined a paranoid schizophrenic might. He was articulate. He cited patterns research and the central role of something he called MK Ultra, a real CIA mind control program that ran from 1953 to 1973 that targeted drug addicts, prisoners, and other vulnerable people. Sorry, I just want to see what this is about. Okay. I didn't know anything about the pile of facts he just left at my feet, his far-fetched answer to the mystery of his breakdowns and disappearance, but I felt it was my duty as a journalist and his daughter to investigate the possibility of what he said was true. I hoped I could do it without falling down a rabbit hole. One day after scouring the internet for information about MK Ultra and CIA torture, I was served with an ad for Trintellix, a pharmaceutical drug for depression. The ad was prominent on the page and it encouraged me in large blue letters to take the first step. Okay, skipping ahead here. The idea of a conspiracy targeting my father was making me feel depressed. Did I have depression? Okay, so let me just skip. Those are some of the thoughts. Then a more likely hypothesis occurred to me. My online activity using search terms like V2K and government harassment had probably caused computer algorithms to place me in a category of people with paranoia, which is often accompanied by depression, leading advertisers to target me. The hypothesis started to broaden. In our digital economy, covert players are constantly harvesting our data and churning out exquisitely tuned consumer profiles to tap into our dreams and desires. And we see this today all the time. I do in my search and in the pop-ups on my screens. We are being surveilled. We are being controlled and manipulated. We are perhaps being tortured. But it's not the CIA or aliens perpetrating all this. We are doing it ourselves. A thought occurred to me. Could the stories of targeted individuals be a warning, a cautionary tale about the real targeting we experience as digital technologies pervade our lives? Perhaps my father's perception of electronic harassment is the result of his sensitivity to the mechanics of things. He may be seeing through the nuts and bolts of the web, weaving a story out of danger and turning it into a terrifying delusion of persecution, suffering, and torment. Stay with me here. The idea that madness might contain insights about overlooked realities is not new. Okay, so she goes on to explore the possibility that he was seeing things because of his background, connections. He was making connections because the fact that he was a mechanic. Okay, so skipping ahead here because it's pretty long. What if the TI voices exist for the same reason? The approach is gaining traction. Okay, let's backtrack here. On this website, the network urges people with schizophrenia to listen to hallucination, but not to necessarily follow to engage. Okay. Okay, so there are a lot of personal stuff here that I'm not going to go into. She's a journalist, so she goes into a lot of weaving in and out of ideas that are related to the topic. In Who Owns the Future, he writes, because she's referring to a book here, so which book is it? So power concentrates, and I'm skipping ahead here. Jaron Lanier calls siren servers cloud computing networks that dominate the internet. Algorithms collect. Somebody wants my attention here. Jaron Lanier calls siren servers. Okay, algorithms collect our data and crunch that into maps of our minds, which companies use to manipulate our decisions. Power concentrates where the data are. Okay. So in Who Owns the Future, he writes, when you're wearing sensors on your body all the time, such as the GPS and camera on your smartphone, and constantly piping data to a mega computer owned by a corporation that is paid by advertisers to subtly manipulate you, you gradually become less free. This surrender is triggering a breakdown in our ability to distinguish fact from fiction. Instead of moving through the world as autonomous actors with original thoughts and inquiries, we became objects of what is dictated to us via the digital realm, including many who hear the TI stories of surveillance and manipulation dismiss them as mere delusions. But we have created machines that track our every move, that beam thoughts into our heads, were the targeted individuals America's prophets all along. My father told me about CIA agents who allegedly followed him at the turn of the millennium. The TIs collectively referred to this as gang stalking, the perception of groups tracking and harassing them. As my father traveled across continents, he says he was trailed by gringos in suits and black SUVs with American plates. He describes an instance where the stalking became so unbearable that he drove to a Mexican jail and begged the officers to put him behind bars, where he thought he could be safe from the CIA. I want you to arrest me, he recalls saying. All of them are trying to be real nice. Why do you have drugs? I told him I have been doing drugs. A targeted individual in San Diego explained to me that her stalkers often coordinate to mock her and make her feel she's losing her mind. After she went through a difficult breakup, she noticed persecutors posing as couples kissing and hugging in front of her to torment her. You know when someone kisses and it's okay, that's fine. That's street theater. So she goes into a whole lot of detail. And I could see where she's coming from because she's desperately trying to understand her father and to explore other possibilities other than what he's saying, other explanations for what he went through. And she goes through all these other scenarios for possible explanations, and they all lead to one, and they all lead to the same road. Okay, so let's see here. Consider this example from my own life. So she became a target too, because targeting is intergenerational. After the Los Angeles Times published allegations of sexual misconduct by a gynecologist at the university I attended, Facebook started bombarding me with pictures of his face in the form of ads from plaintiff lawyers offering free consultations and injury checks. I had an uncomfortable experience with this gynecologist and had been considering sharing my stories with journalists after reading the first article. But seeing his face on my news feed every time I opened Facebook felt invasive, almost nightmarish. My USC classmates and I were being stalked by lawyers who knew we'd attended the university while the gynecologist worked there. I didn't feel like the platform was presenting an option to speak up. It felt like harassment. Shut up. Shut up, basically. That's exactly what it is. The specificity of the ads, their omnipresence in relation to my very personal incident in my life felt like an assault on my process of deliberation, on the integrity of my free will. And that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's supposed to keep you locked up, basically. Like my father, I'm experiencing a form of gang stalking, and it's very real. It's real. And she goes on. Into a lot of detail. She links it very, very well to technology and the way the technology has progressed. And this comes, this article brings to mind COVID-19 and contact tracing, and having robotic dogs follow you in the park, telling you to social distance, and having drones barking at you in China, for instance, telling old ladies to go home. It's nightmarish. So I'm going to post this. She's wow, here's a picture of her. I didn't read this article before I did this. Very, very pretty little girl. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Not little girl, she's a woman in the picture, a young woman, college student, I guess. So I'm gonna post a link. I'm gonna stop there. It's going on almost an hour. So let me just take my blood pressure one more time. And I'm getting scanned again. So I'm going to take my blood pressure after that scan. And I just burped because of the heat that's generated from the scan. So there is a woman, a Caribbean sounding woman, who is saying, and there you go, that's the scan, 141/84. So what was it before that? 122/88. And heart rate was 79. So 141/84, heart rate went up to 81. So that's a pain response. And also there is, I mean, it affects the nervous system because these signals affect your nerves. So it runs right into your nervous system, and it affects the heart responds, at least in my case, very, very directly and very quickly to the stimulation of the nerves. I'm going to do it one more time. Yeah, so there is a woman outside who is making a comment that the cops have real proof, and it's already verified. Whatever report that was submitted about me was verified. So 139/89. So the next one, I should get an arrhythmia notification. So anyway, I'm going to close it off here, and I'm going to shield myself. Talk to you another time, and I'll post that link. Oh, you might have to pay $5 to read it, but you get a 6-month subscription to the Wired magazine, which in my opinion is pretty good. You get a lot of techie articles. Talk to you another time.